Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the launch of the Global DRS platform. Now we have lots of attendees here in the room listening to us. We are very glad. And we are thrilled to have people from all around the world coming together to discuss how the deposit and return systems can drive global change around the world. In fact, we have more than 400 registered attendees from 65 countries across all continents, as you can see now in the image that we are sharing. And among them, there are people from industries, governments, NGOs, consultants, and waste workers as well. And this is especially important because the vision of the platform is to collaborate to ensure that no containers end up polluting our planet. We are here today because, as you all know, plastic pollution continues to be one of the greatest environmental and social challenges of our time. And just think that 3.5 billion single-use containers are being sold every day, and most of them end up as waste. So with plastic production increasing and waste management systems struggling to keep up, we need highly effective and proven solutions. And that's where deposit return systems come in, helping to keep valuable resources in the loop, reducing pollution, and creating economic opportunities. And to address this topic, we'll also have an incredible lineup of speakers from different regions who will share their experiences and insights on the role of DRS in tackling all these challenges. My name is Martin Valese, and I am from Argentina. Hello and hola for those speaking in Spanish. And I will be your facilitator today, representing the Global DRS platform. My background is in circular economy and sustainability, and I'm excited to guide you through today's event. Before we begin, I would like to share 4 important points. First, that the session is going to be recorded for further reference. Also, that if you don't understand English, for example, you can choose your language in the interpretation button below. You can choose among Arabic, English, French, Indonesian, and Spanish. So any language you want to hear the presentations on, you just switch it from the interpretation button. Thanks to the translator team for this. Third, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions or inquiries for the panelists that are going to be speaking, you just send them through the Q&A button, and we will make sure that we cover as many questions as possible at the end of the event. We also encourage you to register through the QR that we have shared before. We will share this in various occasions throughout the event, so you can connect with us, receive updates, or connect with the panelists who have spoken today as well. Now, before introducing our first speaker, a quick note for the panelists regarding time. They already know, but I will repeat it just in case. Each of you will have 5 minutes to share your insights. And this is, of course, so we ensure that we stay on schedule and so everyone has time to speak. And once you reach that time, I will give you a heads up and you'll have a brief moment to round up the thoughts and the insights that you are sharing. So now, to begin with, we will set the stage for why is this platform being created and what is its vision. And for that, I'm pleased to introduce Jean-Marc Simon as one of the strategists behind the Global DRS platform. He is based in Brussels. He is the founder of Zero Waste Europe, which is a key organization in significantly increasing the visibility and policy impact of zero waste efforts in Europe over the past 15 years. And today he will share the vision and goals of the Global DRS platform and how it aims to work inclusively with DRS systems around the world. Jean-Marc, please, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin, and greetings to everyone watching from around the globe. So excited to actually see such a big attendance today. Today, 9 out of 10 beverage packaging worldwide is ending up in the environment. And reversing this is the ultimate aim of this platform, to ensure that at least 9 out of 10 packaging worldwide is collected to be reused, recycled in an inclusive way. The Global Deposit and Return platform is dedicated to building a world free from product and packaging waste, and we work to ensure that DRS systems become the global standard for packaging and product management, promoting reuse, recycling, and social inclusion. In the coming 10 years, we will see many countries around the globe implementing extended producer responsibility schemes. And a very effective type of extended producer responsibility is deposit and return systems. This platform exists as a resource to ensure that when these deposit and return systems are implemented, they are designed in a way that includes reuse and single-use options in the most effective and socially inclusive way. And I would like to describe how are we planning to do this as a platform. First of all, the plan is to share resources and best practices from around the world. The website will be a resource hub where you will find studies and best practices about DRS, webinars, and other activities to build and share knowledge, as you can see in the screen. Secondly, we will do so by providing trainings on what is deposit and return systems and what they are not as well. Because the same as a separate collection can be organized in many different ways, there are no DRS systems that are the same. For example, many people, when they think about DRS, the idea that comes to mind is that of a machine where you bring your can or your bottle, you put it in and you get a deposit back. But a deposit and return system is a system, it's not a technology, and can work without a single machine. It is the local conditions which will determine what system will be used and whether machines are needed at all. For this reason, the platform will provide two trainings, one on what is DRS and how it works, and you can see it now in the screen, and another one about how to design a DRS system that suits your local conditions, which are different around the world. At the end of these two trainings, anyone having finalized them will have developed a model about how DRS implementation would look like in their local reality. These courses are available as from today in the Global DRS platform, in English, in French, and Spanish, and more languages will come. Lastly, the platform is a place to get the support that you need to design and implement a deposit and return system. Thanks to the extensive network of experts and partners, the platform can help organize all the technical, legal, and communicational support needed to design and implement successful deposit and return systems, no matter where you are. I would like to emphasize that this platform is a platform, and as such, it will not have members. It's not a campaign, it's not a coalition, it is a platform. And it will be open to anybody interested in learning and designing deposit and return systems. It is a place to get answers, but above all, it is a place to ask questions so that together we can build the collective knowledge that we need in order to address the waste crisis. What the platform does have, however, are endorsers and supporters. Endorsers are individuals, experts, practitioners, policymakers, and local leaders who endorse the purpose of this platform. Some are already there in the website, many more will join soon. On the other hand, we have supporters. The supporters are companies and institutions who support the mission of the platform and adhere to the support statement that you can find in the website. We have been in conversations with important players about this, and some big companies have already expressed support for the platform. And we hope to publish the list of supporting companies and institutions very soon. And we encourage those of you watching this to also sign up if you think that your institution supports this endeavor. All this information and more is available on the website of the Global DRS platform. And I encourage you to subscribe to the website to get news and be updated about the upcoming activities. This is all from my side. We look forward to engaging with you and making DRS happen, and look forward to listening to the incredible panel of speakers that we have today. Thanks, and over to you, Marc.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Thanks for setting clear the vision of the platform and for the detail of how it's going to be working. And now let's take a step back to understand why are we launching this platform today. And to do that, I will invite Miquel Roset, to speak about the background work that has been done in the Global South with governments, industries, and civil society, and how the current global plastic crisis makes DRS more necessary than ever. Miquel is based in Barcelona and has co-led the Retorna political advocacy campaign in Spain for the implementation of DRS for the past 15 years. He has also collaborated with governments, environmental organizations, and companies on projects in Portugal, Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay, Bolivia, Costa Rica, and Chile, and now is also a strategist for the global DRS platform. Miquel, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Martin. Now I will speak in Spanish, so whoever wants to switch to translation, it's the moment of doing so. Okay, yes, why this platform? Well, cada minuto,
2 million single-use packaging are lost per minute in the world. In Mount Everest, in Paris, and in the Galápagos, in my neighborhood and in your neighborhood, including a small deposit for single-use packaging reduces this problem. Why do we have this platform? Because we are going to see an exponential increase in the deposit and return systems in the upcoming years. We're going to have more and more DRS systems. And the challenge is making these DRS systems something good, something successful, efficient for companies, for consumers, for waste collectors, for recycling companies, for governments, for everyone. And there is not a unique deposit and return system. Each country, each region has its own system, and we need to have local leadership. It is the only way of doing things right. What we have started doing with this platform is getting together experts and professionals and policymakers so that we tackle the challenge of recycling single-use packaging. We try to bring together all stakeholders, businesses and shops and consumers. Everyone needs to be a part of this platform. By adding together global knowledge and local knowledge, plus a strong local leadership, we will put in place good deposit and return systems. 20 million cans, bricks, and bottles, cartons and bottles have been lost since we started this presentation. That is why in the future, we're going to see more and more businesses that request for a deposit every time that we purchase a beer, a bottle of water, or a soft drink. And they will give it back when we return the empty packaging, simply by giving back that form of packaging, that can, that water bottle, we will get the deposit back. And this will be the success of the future.
Thank you, Miquel, for sharing these insights. I think it's key to emphasize again the importance of designing DRS systems customically, right, to the realities of local regions. That's a great point. And now we would like to invite our next speaker, Lucía Norris, from the Galápagos Conservation Trust. She will share real-world experiences of plastic pollution in islands and protected areas, and the crucial role that DRS can play in these unique ecosystems. Lucía is Masters of Philosophy in Conservation Leadership by the University of Cambridge, and she covers conservation, sustainable development, new economies, and resilience for the Galápagos Conservation Trust in Ecuador. Lucía, good morning to you. I think there is quite earlier. Thanks for being here today and welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Martin. I'm going to speak in Spanish as well. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to share the experiences that we have gathered in Galápagos. Over 6 years ago, the Galápagos Conservation Trust, together with the ENG and some local allies, we brought together the research network to understand plastic pollution. We wanted to understand what the source of plastic pollution was and what its impact were. We soon realized that that effort could not be local. So we created the PPSS together with the University of Essex, Exeter. After 5 years, now we have enough evidence and enough knowledge to understand what is happening in the Galapagos. I don't want to bore you with tons and tons of data, but we know that 95% of plastic pollution comes from external sources. Only 5% is produced locally. We know that 79% of that pollution is single-use containers. And we knew that 1/3 of those are beverage containers, and 1/3 of that is water bottles. We have, for example, the white shark, the tortoise, and many local species that are endangered as a result of the plastic pollution. Plastic pollution does not respect protected marine areas. Even if the Galapagos has the label of natural global heritage, plastic comes floating towards us with the different ocean flows and water flows that bring plastic to us. Only 5%, as I said before, of that pollution is generated locally. And that 5% locally also comes from external sources because us in the islands, we import the majority of our products that we consume. And those goods that we import, they come in plastic packages. That creates litter and generates a great pressure for local waste management systems. We are not too advanced, and here I'm not referring to the Galapagos, but to islands in general. So according to the University of Exeter, only 1/3 of the plastic waste that reaches the recycling plant is actually recycled. The rest goes to the landfill. And the thing is that we have a finite world and we cannot continue digging up holes to bury our litter. That's why we have been getting together with local authorities to manage waste better, oceanic waste, and also the waste that we generate locally. We're trying to reduce single-use plastic at the local level and the pollution that they generate. Among the whole variety of solutions that we have at hand, we think that the deposit and return system is one of the biggest players. Last year, the Galápagos Conservation Trust, we were able to meet our Rapa Nui colleagues, and we realized then the importance of sharing our experiences with other island states, because we have very similar realities. Another similarity is that tourism is one of the main engines of our economies. The growth in tourism comes hand in hand with the growth in litter and plastic waste. So we have single-use plastic water bottles that are polluting our islands and that come precisely from tourism. Us in the islands, we've also focused on recycling just in the last few decades. In the past, we reused more, and now we are more focused on recycling rather than reducing or reusing. That's why we're putting in place different deposit and return systems for beer bottles. There is an initiative that is called Wanna Cup. You can purchase a coffee cup, for example, in a shop and then return it in a different shop, and you get your deposit back. We have another initiative that recycles crystal bottles and creates mugs with that. So we can see that there is a lot of creativity on the ground.
Lucy, kind reminder, 5 minutes, just for you to know.
¿Y en cuántos estoy?
5 minutes already passed. But you can continue a little bit
Un
to round
minuto
up the
más.
idea. Yes.
Yeah, okay, gracias.
Okay,
Entonces,
so
en todo
in
caso,
sum, in the Galápagos, we have different return initiatives at a local level. The Government Council in Galápagos signed an agreement with Coca-Cola so that they can only trade with returnable packaging. Now we can see that a high percentage of the packaging that is used in the Galápagos is now recycled and reused. We need more DRS systems, both inland and also in our islands. We think that that is going to help us in the Galápagos and in Ecuador to understand better.
Thank you, Lucy. Sorry for jumping in. That it was.
No, apologies. I spoke for too
But
long.
it was really, really interesting. I think it's pretty clear that there's no one solution for everything, that there need to combine different types of solutions. The problem is not only local, it's global as well. So thanks for those insights. Now we go to the Philippines and we move to, sorry. Yeah, we go from Galápagos to the Philippines, another place full of fragile marine ecosystems that must be protected as well, and where decades of single-use plastic proliferation have displaced traditional refill and reuse systems, unfortunately. So I invite you, Sonia. You have been at the forefront of the zero waste efforts in the Philippines as the chairman of the Mother Earth Foundation. And she will now share her insights from Manila, where it is late at night now. So good evening for you, Sonia, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Well, why we need to shift to reuse? Fossil fuel companies estimate that the total volume of plastic production ever produced will reach 34,000 million tons, over 4 times of current production. The Philippines use 165 million pieces of sachets every day. Well, human activities in residential and commercial areas lead to plastic waste ending up in waterways, especially creeks that feed into the Pasig River, eventually flowing into Manila Bay. Cities near the Manila Bay like Malabon, Navotas, Las Piñas, Parañaque cities are adversely affected by flooding. Litter is harmful to people, animals, and the natural environment. The major impacts involve the danger to public health, the risk of fire hazards, endangering of or even killing wildlife, and the serious damage to waterways. Well, 95% of plastic packaging is discarded after a single use. With more than 200 cities and communities practicing zero waste, communities exemplify zero waste by establishing systems for decentralized management of segregated waste while creating job opportunities. However, despite the very successful zero waste practices to some cities and communities, these are often burdened with plastic waste that they are not equipped to handle. There is a need for a national approach to create systems that remove packaging waste from the environment, like a reuse bill. This will be complementary to the EPR law of the Philippines. The invasion of single-use containers over the last decades has been displacing local zero-waste systems. A well-designed deposit and return system, or DRS, not only prevents packaging from turning into litter, but also brings funding to cities and creates new opportunities for waste workers. For a start, we have successfully partnered with communities, stores, and community eateries to adopt the reuse and refill system while integrating DRS to reduce the use of single-use containers. There are more than 1 million of these community stores and eateries. Well, opportunities: one, cultural practices, existing habits of reuse and bulk purchasing in many communities. Number two, cost savings, significant potential for cost reduction for consumers, retailers, and eventually products. Third, adaptable for remote geographies. Refills are especially suitable for mountain and island ecosystems with limited recycling infrastructure for single-use packaging. And fourth, we still have a good share of refillable packaging for soft drinks and beers, which need to be renovated and expanded. DRS will conserve resources, cost less water, and land pollution. Right now, we can start with DRS for soft drinks and beers. The challenges: one, scalability. Limited participation by popular brands in refill systems hinders scalability and widespread consumer adoption. Number two, lack of consistent refill policies create hurdles for refill business owners. And third, financing or investment, logistical limitations, and infrastructure gaps. Our recommendations: mandating reusables at event and for takeaway food. Two, prioritizing the establishment and scaling of drinking water refill models. Third, supporting community refill stores in remote areas and extending financial support, tax incentives, grants, and subsidies to reuse service providers. Fifth, designing a reuse economy that is environmentally sustainable, consumer-friendly, and economically viable is crucial, with a focus on integrating the skills of waste pickers and waste workers and other key workers within the plastic packaging value chain. And last, supporting national, global cooperation on reuse standards, which would enable development and scale up of shared infrastructures for returnable systems. There will be less litter and clutter in the Philippines, especially in urban areas, including the junk shops, if there are no single-use beverage packaging and a DRS system is in place. We have already formed the Philippine Reuse Consortium, and we are a member of the Asian Reuse Consortium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. That was a really interesting speech, especially the thought that we need to have a system that is designed for national approach, but also considering the community focus. I think that's a very, very relevant aspect as well. Now, from the Philippines, we are going to move to Abuja in Nigeria, where waste management challenges present both significant risks and opportunities. And our next speaker, Ahmed Tiamiyu, will discuss how DRS can create opportunities for local communities and improve both social and economic conditions. Ahmed is a research scientist and a chemical, waste, and pollution control policy expert. He is the executive director at Community Action Against Plastic Waste, a grassroots movement advancing a toxic-free circularity plastic economy for just, inclusive, and sustainable development in over 70 frontline communities in 21 countries across Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. Ahmed, please take the floor.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Martin.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear
Can
you.
you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Martin. And good afternoon, everyone from Nigeria.
We cannot see you, Ahmed.
In here.
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Now we can see you. Yes, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so good afternoon from Nigeria. It's a very beautiful afternoon here. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Interesting topic to discuss deposit return system and the benefits that this actually own, to every dimension of the society as we have it today, from country level to globally, and of course to the most important critical part of this value chain, which is at the community front line, who bear the most significant impact, negative impact of plastic pollution. And obviously, you could have seen how plastic pollution has become a growing topic, so much that the United Nations Environment Program, during the assembly in 2022, agreed on having a global treaty that actually ensured that there's a global binding, agreement to ensure that plastic pollution actually addressed holistically around the world. And of course, in this instance, is a very good topic of the deposit return system, like the one that we're discussing today. I'm going to be speaking from someone who worked with grassroots community in Nigeria and in many African countries, particularly in the global south, and the impact of this and how the DRS can actually change, can change this whole perspective of issues around plastic pollution. Still, every day is many vulnerable young people and women who have to walk several kilometers. This is the current assistance system. Even though most of the players, including the industry, spend a lot of money to ensure that there's an effective recycling system, because we have this conversation with them every day, in different fora. But unfortunately, this is not happening because we do not have an assistance system that ensures that there's a just transition and there's a just, system that actually ensure that all of the critical pillars of sustainability are, embedded, and that is what a DRS system can do. It can ensure that waste picking, for instance, for the waste picker community, it's not only a tedious job that they need to walk several kilometers only to earn less than $1 a day, but they can become a decent, sustainable green job for the future of the world. So this is what DRS system is going to change. For the local global south country, this is what is going to change, and that is why governments around the world, particularly in developing countries, need to rally around this type of platform to ensure that it become not only at national level, but at sub-national and local authority can become implementable. Another thing, the opportunity that this is going to create is, of course, boosting local economy. We know in the context of global development, there's a lot of talk around local economic development and looking at the advantage of local economy for many people. And for instance, in Africa, there is a system, African traditional reuse system, that's been neglected over the year. With the introduction of this kind of DRS platform, is going to change all of this, because now we will see growing interest in reuse, and that will mean that local solution around traditional African reuse can also plug into all of this opportunity, and this will result in boosting local economy. For instance, one of the things we've seen recently in Nigeria is the depreciating in currency and losing of local opportunity and job for many young people. This will change because this is what has been happening in the last 30 years. But this will change all of this. We can go back to many of these opportunities, and they can actually be able to plug into many of these type of opportunity. And that will also mean that there will be a reduction in the time of health risk that people actually suffer when they are exposed to many toxic chemical that is embedded in current existing design of plastic. So all of this will mean one thing to the local community and the informal waste speakers and the entire sector: a more robust health, less health risk, and of course more opportunity in terms of economic opportunity for many of the local people. And lastly, this will also ensure that there will be an accelerated impact in terms of transitioning to circular economy, real circular economy that is non-toxic. Unlike, when we talk about circular economy, the definition can be many, but when we talked about systems, policy framework that will ensure that this transitioning is actually truly to circular economy, these are the kind of platform and opportunity that DRS will bring. I hope this will be a game changer, because I'm really very excited about this opportunity and what it means to the world. I hope everyone on the call is, and we can take this message and share further to everyone, particularly to policymakers. We need to continue and start designing policy in a way that they embedded DRS and reuse to ensure that we have a future that is truly sustainable, inclusive, and just for everyone. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for that. Just one comment. There was a little bit of interference in the sound. I will ask you, Ahmed, if you can stay at the Q&A without the camera, so we don't have problems with the sound. Now, actually, it was working better, but in the first minutes, it was a little bit fuzzy, the sound. But thank you for sharing this perspective on just transition and how it can integrate waste workers. I am sure that there's a lot of people who will want to make some questions regarding that. So please stay there for the Q&A session later. So we've just heard about how DRS can potentially empower local communities in Nigeria. Now let's look at Uruguay, where for the past 36 years, El Abrojo has been working with people at risk of social exclusion, helping them access training and jobs. Leonardo Seijo, a sociologist, along with his colleague Pedro El Prato, a social psychologist and founder of El Abrojo, will share with us insights on how DRS can create fair employment opportunities and foster a just transition. So, Leo, Pedro, buenos días a los dos y bienvenidos. Welcome to...
Buenos días, ¿cómo están? ¿Se escucha bien
Good
allí?
morning, can you hear us?
We hear you perfectly well, te escuchamos muy bien. Sí,
Yes,
sí.
okay, so we're going to be speaking in Spanish, and we are mindful of time, okay? Because we don't want to have Martin interrupt us and tell us that we've run out of time. So we're going to be talking about social inclusion issues. This is quite vast, so what we would like to do is to give you an overview, because our organization has always had social inclusion at heart. This is something very important to us, and especially in Latin America. All the subjects concerning recycling and waste management are related to issues concerning social inclusion. So Pedro will tell us about the history of the organization, and then we will go into some insights. Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me to be here. Our organization has been working for 36 years in Uruguay, and we have been working with different social emergencies in society. In 1995, we started working with social and work training, especially concerning social inclusion. And another thing that came up during the time that we have been working is everything to do with environmental issues, you know? And from 2006, we started working in this area as well, social and environmental issues. So in this regard, one of the ideas that we have been seeing along the way is that environmental issues are creating employment opportunities as well. Opportunities for economic development for collectives which at the time were vulnerable groups. So we started working with different aspects concerning environment and social inclusion from the point of view of energy efficiency, craftsmanship, waste, and so on. And we started thinking about how we could incorporate social inclusion in all these green subjects. So with the advent of multi-stakeholders, we saw that we all were responsible for the different issues that were being generated. And in that regard, we say if we want to have opportunities, we need to acknowledge that there's an issue and that this issue needs to be solved. And this is not an individual, but a collective issue. And acknowledging that gives us the opportunity, from my point of view, to highlight the value of the solutions that we find. Because if we don't highlight that value, we don't see opportunity and we're not acknowledging anything. This is someone else's problem. The company will do whatever they can to reduce costs, and the in their management will do that as well. Okay, so acknowledging that this is an issue and this is a collective issue is what will bring opportunities. We don't have much time, so we would just like to highlight some of the features of these systems so that we have opportunities with social inclusion. In Uruguay, it is mandatory by law to prioritize social inclusion when we talk about waste management. So from our point of view, this system should address also the dignification of work, because if we value the solution, then the work has to be dignified as well, yeah? So it has to have social and economic value. Now, a key aspect of this is training. Pedro will tell us in a minute, training and capacity building, yeah? Because it's not enough to value something. We need to be capable of carrying it out if we want true inclusion. Therefore, if we want true inclusion, we need to build capacities for societies which will need different tools. But again, this is not enough because this has to be sustainable. And in order to do that, we need social participation and accountability. We cannot run after people to change their conduct and the behavior. We have to convince them that this is an important change. The recycling, packaging, and managing waste is important. So we need social participation and accountability, and we need to support the value that we want to bring with this system. And finally, we need to build political viability, because otherwise, who will destine public or private efforts if we don't see the value of this? Okay, and so Pedro, if maybe you can tell us about training, because this is not typical classical training. We're talking about tailored training for specific societies and specific work environments. Yes, so this is what we need to do. We need to find where social opportunities and vulnerable groups meet. And where they meet, or when they meet, this means that we have a challenge. So we need political will and we need resources, obviously. It's not something easily done. And in many cases, we will need to find shared funding models with the state, especially to the extent in which these activities are not necessarily profitable. Okay, but when we think about this, we think about investing in years of capacity building, training, hand-in-hand work in skills. And this can be skills to carry out the work, okay? And again, we're talking about dignified work, where people have a specific schedule that they meet, they have decent work, they have social protection, and they are working in optimal conditions, yeah, just like any other worker in any other context. So in order to achieve this, for us, in some experiences, meant 6 years working with vulnerable groups to make sure that we had cooperatives which were self-sustainable, self-sustained with what they made from waste recycling, obviously with lots of support from the state as well. So I'm going to finish so that Alejandro can round up. Okay, Martin, we're going to go over time, but not a lot.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Pedro and Leo. I was really, really good in time. I think there's a lot more to speak about this, and it's very interesting, but I'm sure we will have some time also in the Q&A session. This multi-stakeholder approach that you are talking about, and the fact that the problem is not a problem of an individual, but it's a collective issue that we need to think about holistically. I think it's really important. And now we will start with Alejandro Nario. He is the former Secretary of Environment and the actual National Director of Environmental Quality and Assessment in Uruguay. He's based in Montevideo. He's a chemical engineer and has been heavily involved in the Uruguayan DRS system that is going to be probably launched during the next year. Alejandro, bienvenido. The stage is yours now. Ale, ¿estás ahí?
Alejandro?
Hola, ¿ahí?
Perfect. Now we hear you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias,
Yes,
Martín.
thank you, Martin. I'm going to be speaking in Spanish. Thank you to the platform for inviting me to be here, and greetings from Uruguay in the south of South America. I'm not going to take too long, but I think something that is quite clear is that the linear economy policy is pushing resources at a global level. And obviously, plastic is very important, and it has reached amazing proportions. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking about numbers because people have talked about figures before. I think it's clear that these DRS systems are key to manage plastic and other single-use packaging, such as cans and glass, in a very specific way. And for us, it's very important to include a general circularity policy, because we're talking about reusing, we're talking about returning, we're talking about recycling. And obviously we need to talk about efficiency in recovery, but also we need to talk about exit channels, which are appropriate to the different materials that we are collecting. I think something very positive is how this platform is structured, because we addressed implementing a DRS system in Uruguay, and when we did so, the information that we had was only concerning systems that were in place in the global north, very few systems in the global south. And as we've been saying, the social and economic realities are very different in the north and the south. Yeah. So obviously we have specific challenges, and if we want to keep moving forward in these systems in the global south, and as Martin was saying, he's convinced this is something that is going to move forward, then we need to work together within the global south. And I think the platform is going to play a very important role in this regard. Now, in terms of key questions, we see two main things. First of all, the role that the state plays in terms of creating the necessary laws to develop these systems. In Uruguay, in 2019, we passed a waste law, and everything related to the network was already included in this law, including how shops were receiving materials and so on. And our friends from El Abrojo were saying there's a whole chapter on social inclusion, and it establishes key skills and game rules. This allowed us, therefore, to have a lot of information when we wanted to advance into this DRS system. It took us 3 years 3 years of discussions with the stakeholders, and obviously there was some lobbying as well during the process. It was a strong process because it was built with the civil society, the political, business, and union systems. So first of all, I think we should address legislation, and this is something that needs to be carried out in a way which allows for everyone to participate, because obviously there will be economic lobbying here as well. And the other thing that's clear is funding. We see two ways in terms of funding, and actually in the law that we passed, we had been working in an REP system that had about 54% recovery rate. And so we gave the state the ability to create an instrument, economic and environmental instrument, that allowed for the system to work and also for the system to be funded. And this had to be a system that was an alternative to the network that we had. And I think this was very important for the advancement of the network. Because we created an alternative system for the state, and I think this was something positive. But once again, I think we have two ways for funding. Either we define packaging flow with a DRS system, and we have some examples in Europe with specific laws regulating this, or we have another path, which is a system with milestones, with clear milestones, which make DRS systems compulsory, because recovery systems can only be achieved this way. Yeah, so when we think, sometimes we think that it's going to be impossible, but for example, if you set the goal like we had in Uruguay of 54% in a short time, then we could have both systems working at the same time, but we would need to have a very good response for this system as well. Okay, you've reached the 5-minute limit. Do you still have something to add? Yeah, okay, so just to conclude, some of the issues that we have found is trust in the private sector, who are the ones funding, the participation of the industry, positioning of the parts that fund these systems, and there are other systems which appear to be cheaper, but they're not as efficient as a DRS, even though they promise that they're going to be efficient. Then we have cultural hurdles, and we need to think, we need to enshrine the DRS in our law, and especially in the Global South. The system for classification is a very important issue that we need to address. This is something that we dealt with, and we talked aloud. We talked a lot about it, and we think that the work that people carry out to recover and recycle waste has to be remunerated. It cannot be done for free, as they were saying from El Abrojo earlier. Yeah, and if we only think about selling these materials, then it's unfair for the people actually collecting the materials. Once again, the Global South is not the same as the Global North. We need to work in our own way, and here from Uruguay, we are at the disposal of all our brothers from the Global South as well, the Global North, but especially the Global South, to work together and keep working. I think this is going to be our strength. Sorry that I took too long.
We can see that you're passionate about this, Ale. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the multi-stakeholder approach you are suggesting, involving all the actors from the beginning, from the moment that you're starting to talk about the legislation, is crucial, because then otherwise the design of systems don't fit everyone involved in this situation. So thanks for sharing that. there's going to be probably some questions and comments that we will share then in the Q&A session. Thank you, Ale. I know that you have to leave now, right? At 11 your time. So Ale will probably leave.
Yes, exactly. My apologies, but I have a meeting with the minister, so I need to leave.
He will meet the minister now, but if there's question for him, we will save those questions and we will share those with you, Ale, if that's okay. So then you can respond them and we can share it with the persons who are asking those. Thank you for being here.
Yes, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ale. And now let's move to Indonesia, where small-scale reuse initiatives are providing solutions with rice systems approach. PISA Mafira from Plastic Diet Indonesia, a non-profit organization that focuses on advocating for policies to reduce single-use plastic waste in Indonesia, will share the experience on how DRS can empower communities and drive system exchange. PISA is a public policy expert with a history of working in the government, commercial, and non-profit sectors. PISA, now the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Martin. And I love that we're moving around the world here. We're scanning, we're spanning the entire globe, and it really goes to show that the reuse initiatives and DRS have been proliferating around the world, which is great news. I thank you for the introduction. I'm with Plastic Diet Indonesia. We're also a proud member of the Asia Reuse Consortium and partner of the PR3 Global Alliance to Advance Reuse. And as you might be able to tell, we're very passionate about advancing reuse. And the goal in our vision for reuse is that packaging is reused as many times as possible. Reuse, 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 and then recycling. So when we're talking about a system like that, then we have to consider that reuse has two halves, right? That make the entire circle. That make the entire circle. The two halves of the circle are, first, you have to design for reuse. That's the product design. It has to be safe. It has to be, be able to be disassembled and washed and durable. You have to design the product itself for reuse, the packaging itself for reuse. But we see lots of packaging that's labeled reusable. We see lots of packaging that's labeled recyclable. It does not mean that it actually gets reused or recycled, because you have to design the second half, which is the system, to make sure it really does get reused. And there's a hardware to the system, the physical infrastructure. There's, you need reverse logistics, you need washing facilities, but there's also the software, or what I call the software, or the enabler, which is what incentivizes customers to return the packaging. What incentivizes the distributors to want the packaging back, right? So this is where deposit return schemes play a role. We cannot do this. We cannot incentivize the return of packaging and empty products without deposit return schemes. And I'm here to share how DRS can support, or has been seen in support of small-scale reuse initiatives. And even though they're small-scale reuse initiatives, they demonstrate scalable solutions, and it contributes to a broader ecosystem of reuse systems. So here in Indonesia, and actually throughout Asia, we have a lot of hands-on experience with reuse initiatives. I mean, it's part of our culture. It's part of our local knowledge, actually. Drink vendors, food vendors in the past, maybe a little bit less now, a lot less now, but in the past have always used reuse systems, have always used reusable receptacles. Even till today, in Indonesia, water gallons, the primary method for purchasing water, drinkable water, in Indonesia is through the purchase of water gallons that are, after it is finished, it gets returned to the place where we bought it from, and we get a deposit back, which we can use for our next purchase of water gallons. And this is a system that's been going on for decades, at least 4 decades, right? So we're familiar with the deposit return scheme. It's not something that's new, but there's no reason why we can't see this happening, beyond water gallons. There's no reason why we can't see this happening to replace all of those sachets, to sell shampoos and soaps and ketchup and oil, everything. There's no reason why the same reuse system with DRS can't be used for all of these products. So these could be scaled up if we had more widespread use of deposit return schemes, and if we understood better all of the forms of deposit return schemes that are possible. And this, could happen if we had more cross-learning across different jurisdictions and across the world that utilize deposit return schemes. So just to reiterate Jean-Marc's point very early on in this session, deposit return schemes is not just a fancy vending machine, right? That's probably what you might find in Europe or in the global South. But in Asia, the examples vary. In Indonesia, I already mentioned the gallons, the water gallons example. It's basically a deposit when you buy it, a cashback when you return it. We're seeing it in e-commerce as well, where if you sit in your home, you buy something online, the thing gets delivered to you. And when it's empty, at the point that it gets collected by the same distributor, you get a cashback. So when you do your next e-commerce purchase, when you do your next online purchase, your new goods come at the same time as your empties get collected, and then you get a cashback, right? So that's also happening already in Indonesia. There are waste banks where you can go to deposit your waste and you can deposit your reusables. You get collection points, you get, cashback, and a lot of those waste banks utilize, involved waste pickers as well. And you have methods where you can go to a mini market or the local store and you get reward points or discounts for your next purchase when you return bottles. So as you can see, it's diverse. None of these are high tech. None of these are particularly high capital, but they do involve a heightened connection and loyalty building between the store and customer, which is really, really important. Because at the end of the day, what it delivers is convenience and cost cutting for consumers, right? So that's the most important thing for this to scale. So I really support the DRS platform to encourage learning and the more widespread use of deposit return schemes in all of its forms to all communities around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Tisa. I was about to enter, but you just closed perfectly well in time. Thank you very much for sharing that. Now we are going to have some final perspectives from Senegal. We're moving to Africa, where Farima Tidjani from Zero the Heads Senegal and Gaia Africa will talk now. She has an engineering background and has been an entrepreneur on various local projects during the last years. She will discuss her hands-on experience in reuse projects at a local level, their benefits, the challenges they face, and what is needed to scale them up. Farima, please welcome to the floor.
Bonjour à tous, j'espère que vous m'entendez dans la bonne langue. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody understands me. You can hear me. Oui. Donc, bonjour à tous. So, good morning. I'm a member of Gaia. I am in Senegal, and I also work with the entrepreneurs. So I'm going to explain to you the entrepreneurship idea. But before continuing, I would like to say that I'm really envious about Tisa because we would like to have the expertise they have in Indonesia, but in Senegal. Today, we have some difficulties because in Senegal, in our current projects, we have high costs. So companies or entrepreneurs are on their own. They don't have any kind of consortium. So when they try to implement reuse projects, this is very expensive because it's still at a small scale. For example, a group of companies that have implemented a project to reuse glass bottles of waters, but they had to stop because the logistic for the return was very expensive on the one hand. On the second hand, it was very difficult for companies to clean these bottles. So these many restaurants stopped the project. They stopped the reusing project because it was very complicated to clean bottles. We have another company that is called Pailletifam. They reuse. They try to use items used in restaurants to clean them and then give them back to the restaurant, but that was very expensive from a logistical point of view. So unfortunately, we still have a great deal of deposits in Senegal, but this kind of projects, deposit projects, are disappearing. For example, Coca-Cola had a project for long time, and 2 years ago they had to stop with that, and they continue using plastic and cans, so no longer bottles that could be reused. And why was that? Because on the one hand, there is not this multi-actor collaboration, which makes logistics very difficult, cleaning very difficult, so costs are high, and there's no kind of position for collaboration. Sometimes there is, sometimes there is not. So in Senegal, we try to implement projects, common systems projects, but we have different individuals that do the same job and work together as a consortium in order for them to have containers that might be transferred from one person to other in order not to do everything. So one group will work with cleaning, another group will work with logistics, and we are very happy to work with this network because all these barriers that were lifted up between the single use and reuse will be reinforced and replaced. So we will put in practice a system for all the process. So everybody will have to return packaging. And so we will be working with reuse, and everything will be at the same level. Putting things at the same level will help us to awareness raising among citizens, because they will be used to take a packaging, deposit them, get some money, and then get some money in when they return the packaging. So they will do this for everything, and all the difficulties we have encountered to implement everything will be useful because we will have a lot of jobs. So we are very happy to start working. We are very happy to implement the project in Senegal. And lastly, I wanted to say that there's something very interesting in this platform. The platform, not only does it give us tools, but also that the network allow us to implement the tools at a local level, especially for those community working with the marginalized people. So these people will be included in the project since the beginning, and they will be accompanied by the platform. And I'm sure that we'll include them and we're going to propose them just and fair transition. So these people that are marginalized will be part of the system, and these people will be accompanied by training courses, so they are part of the system. So that was all I wanted to share with you in my 5 minutes.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your insights on how returnable-based systems can support just transition and further foster circularity. Please, can you stay for the Q&A that's coming next? That would be great. I'm sure there's also going to be many questions you can address. But before moving to the Q&A session, that's what's coming next. Joan, Marc, Miquel, I would like to invite you both, or one of you, whoever you want, to add something if you want before the Q&A session. Would you like to make some final remarks?
Sure. Yeah, I think that To put it in perspective, I was saying in my 2 minutes that every day, every minute, 2 million empty beverage containers, single use, are lost in the world every minute. If we translate this into daily figures, we're talking about 4,000 million cans, bottles, and bricks that they end up lost in our environment, in our planet, whatever it is. And 85% of those lost of those beverages that we sell every day, they are sold in single-use containers. So we have two huge problems. The first one is that we are in the culture of the single use, and it's very unbalanced. So we need reuse. And the first also, because both are number one problems, is that we only manage to collect 85% of what we consume every day in the planet. Deposit return systems, what they do is they make sure that mostly everything goes back to a place where they are either prepared to be reused or prepared to be recycled. And when you set up a deposit return system, ideally, you have to do it in a way that this will facilitate also fair competition between the reusable containers and the single use. So many people in this platform, they are really pro reuse, and they are in this platform because they believe that first we need to make sure that nothing is lost, that nothing ends up littered in Titicaca Lake, like I've seen with my own eyes, or in next door outside. And second, that there is a good balance between what is being recycled and what is being reused, because nowadays it's completely unbalanced. Years ago, everything was reusable. Nowadays, mostly everything is single use. So at least what we need to do is to balance this. And the way of doing it is selling everything with a small deposit, so everyone brings back the empty cans and bottles to the shop, and the consumer will have, that has the right to choose whether he wants a reusable container or a single use. But we need to incentivize for sure the reuse, because reuse, we are seeing this in the Global Plastic Treaty, it will come like a tsunami. We need reuse. We can't be thinking only in single use. Reuse will come all over the place. So let's make sure we collect everything and we have a good balance between single use and reuse. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Miquel, and thanks to all the speakers. It's been a great privilege to hear all those experiences and insights today. And now we have about 10 minutes. So what we are going to do now is move to the Q&A session. We have the questions here. I will read them and share with the speakers so they can address them. So the first one says, what is your opinion on the impact that this model could have on the waste pickers community, even though the results are environmentally positive? What happens with the social aspect? I don't know if the guys, Leo and Pedro have heard this in Spanish. I can translate it. Otherwise, it says, ¿cuál es su opinión respecto del impacto sobre este modelo?
To rephrase it, what's your opinion on the impact of this model? Because I don't know if you have heard it in Spanish. Yeah, no, we have heard it in Spanish. Thank you for the question. Yes, this is exactly where we're coming from. This is a social and environmental issue. So we have to solve the social issue on the one hand and the environmental issue on the other hand. So the projects that we're working on, we see that their impact is mostly on vulnerable groups. So we need to include them, and this is key. This is key to address the issue. So these people have to be part of the solution. We cannot leave anyone behind, and this is the only way in which we will solve the situation. So yes, it is costly. It's difficult. We need this, but a definition, but it's the only way in which we will ensure that our responses are sustainable with social inclusion and environmental responsibility. And in our system, more specifically, we recently designed a proposal together with Martin and Miquel. They actually supported us a lot in this work. And in this system, vulnerable groups were part of the system, okay? But the way we had designed it, it had different components, including awareness raising, working with communities and so on, communication and so on. And vulnerable groups are part of the system. And this is why the training Pedro told us about is so important. It has to be leveled with the demands of the system, which has to be sustainable, but also inclusive. So they are part of the solution. Yes, and it cannot be cheap workers either, okay? They cannot be at the bottom of the pyramid, but we have to qualify and include those vulnerable groups
Thank
more
you,
and more.
Pedro and Leo. There is a lot of questions. Due to time constraints, we are going to read 2 more questions, or 3 maybe, if we make it with the time. But then we will definitely respond those remaining questions through an email, and we will share that as well. So the next question says, I would like to ask if the design of plastic packaging is a crucial factor in ensuring the effectiveness of a deposit return scheme. For example, here in Kenya, buying virgin plastic is often cheaper than recycling. Could you share insights on how this challenge has been addressed in other countries? Maybe Jean-Marc, Miquel, want to address that question?
Yes, I can do it very quickly. Yes, the design of the packaging is crucial. If you want designing for single use, is not the same as designing for packaging that needs to circulate 5, 10, 20, 30 times. And therefore that needs to be taken into account. You cannot use single-use packaging for reuse, and it's not economic to do the opposite either. But that's taken into account, and all this and other information is shared in the resources part of the platform. So you're going to learn this and a lot more when you take the trainings. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Moving to our next question. It says, I am not clear why the focus is on recycling and not reuse, especially for more remote communities such as islands. Recycling seems like a similar problem as waste. There would not be adequate processing facilities, and reuse of containers through our DRS is the ideal approach. Do you want Lucy to respond this question?
Sí.
Since it addresses islands.
Claro, absolutamente de acuerdo que...
Yes, no, I completely agree. Can I speak in Spanish?
Sí, el enfoque
Yes, of course, the approach has to be on DRS systems. When I was little, my mom would send me to the shop to buy milk, and I would carry our own bottle and I would refill my bottle. Yeah, this is the way it was used before. So basically, it's going back to what we used to do. And of course, we need to focus on reusing and returning. And as one of the panelists was saying, reuse, reuse, reuse. And when we've reused 1,000 times, then we can recycle. And obviously, we need recycling systems so that these don't get lost in nature.
Thank you, Lucy. Maybe Tisa, do you want to share some views on this question as well?
I thought it was more of a statement than a question, and I absolutely agree with the statement that in a lot of places recycling doesn't work. It doesn't make sense, especially for islands. Reuse has been, has been developed in the island context. So in Indonesia, right across from Jakarta coastline, there's a cluster of islands that's a tourism spot for the citizens of Jakarta. And basically we have a partner that's working on a bulk store model on the island with goods that are shipped back and forth from the Jakarta mainland. And that's an interesting case in how even bulk goods, even bulk produce, can be designed to be carried in reusable bulk containers, right? Even the bulk containers themselves should be reusable. Now, I just wanted to highlight something because I've seen how there was a recent The Guardian article on, the rise of refill cosmetics. And when I read it, it was about cosmetics, nice fancy brand cosmetics being refilled with these refillable single-use pouches that you also buy as single use. So when a refill is a single use, is delivered through a single use pouch, that defies the purpose, right? So with islands, we've seen how the refill, the bulk refill carried to the island is also a reuse model, and the containers that the consumers use to buy the produce from the bulk is also a reuse container. So there's the B2B reuse and the B2C reuse, which is a really interesting case study.
Thanks, Tisa, for sharing that. There's one question from Hanne Svenningsson. It says, hi, thanks for hosting this webinar. Can you elaborate a bit on the funding and organization of the platform? Jean-Marc, do you want to take the stage?
Sure. So far, this platform is been financed with their own resources and with the help of the 11th Hour Foundation. But going forward, we're going to be looking into ways to finance not only the work of the platform, but also the work on the ground, because we're going to need lots of support if we want to actually make this happen in as many countries as possible.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. And we will have a last question now from Priyati Yagwani. I am in India. Anybody can comment if anybody is working or connected to DRS in India. We'd also love to connect if anyone can guide on DRS solutions to start in India as policy changes on DRS is started in India. Anyone who would like to respond to this question?
Yes, India members are part of the Asia Reuse Consortium. We have reuse actors in India. I'm actually stalling because there's quite a few contact names and I don't know which one to give you. But what's the best way to do this? I'll just answer. We
will make sure to post these answers and contacts.
Okay.
So I will suggest that the person asking this question can contact us through the QR code also, so we can forward those contacts directly, if that's okay. But if you want to mention it, Tisa, go ahead.
Yeah, so our representative from India, who's also a co-convener of the Asia Reuse Consortium, is called Pinky Chandran, a wonderful lady. And I can connect you to her, and she can connect you with many reuse players in India.
Thank you very much. We will make sure to forward that information. And do we have a last question? Miquel, would you like to make a point?
Yes, just a point.
Okay.
Thank you, Martin. It is deposit return systems for reusable containers, for single-use containers. They are collection systems, and we need to implement them because we need to collect everything, the reusable ones and the ones that are for recycling. Then there has to be policies to ensure that we don't lose completely reuse, and reuse is increased, and there is this trend of going to single use that we are now to balance this, as said. But DRS is to make sure that everything is collected. We have a collection system. We need to close the tap of all the cans, bottles, and bricks that are lost in the environment every day. That's why we need to implement them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miquel. So I think since we are over the time now, we will wrap up, and I would like to share some some short takeaways from today's session. 4 points that we have summarized. First, there is a great opportunity to develop new DRS models that are tailored to local realities, especially in the global south, but having this systemic and holistic approach that many of the speakers have highlighted before. We've seen that deposit return systems that are well designed can provide real social, environmental, and economic impacts. Also, this platform supports the global expansion of inclusive and effective DRS systems by bringing together knowledge, resources, and key stakeholders while fostering local leadership. And finally, that the time to act is now, and that we need to work together. So we will looking forward to your contacts and to start connecting towards promoting these solutions. This is just the beginning, and making this happen requires strong and active collaboration, as we have said throughout the event. That is why, before closing, please, I would like to share the QR code again on the screen. So those who haven't scanned it can do it now. We will be waiting for your questions or connections or inquiries there, and we'll make sure to respond them in the next days. On behalf of the Global DRS Platform, I want to sincerely thank you all the attendees for being here, and especially to the panel and speakers, especially to those that are standing up still in the evening, late in the evening, from Asia, and for sharing their experiences during this event. Let's continue building this movement together, and see you all soon. Thank you very, very much.